were to burn this piece of paper, this is the agenda, this is tonight's agenda. If I were to burn this piece of paper, tear it up, throw it away, what would I lose? Nothing, really. Just, you know, I'd lose track of where things were, but fortunately I have a very capable and wonderful Toastmaster who will tell me what's coming up next. I have my neighbors that can help me along, so I really won't lose anything. If I have here in my hand, the to-do list for my assistant. This is a task list that I printed off of my computer. If I were to lose this piece of paper, what would I lose? Yeah, nothing, because I can go back to my computer and get this. Now, what would happen if I were to lose this piece of paper? It has the number 50 on it, and it says that it's signed by someone whose name I can't read, but his title is Secretary of the Treasury. How much would I lose if I lost this $50 bill?
$50.
I would lose $50. Why is it that this piece of paper, which is actually pretty small compared to this piece of paper, worth something? That's the question that we're going to try and answer tonight. But before we get started by talking about what it is, I want to talk a little bit about the history of money and how we got here. You see, back before we had the idea of money, people would trade and barter for things together with what they had. And by way of example, if you were a chicken farmer, you might trade your chicken to get something else. You might trade, how much is that camera worth? 200 bucks? Okay, so you might trade 30 of these chickens to get the camera because the chicken is worth $7 or so. And it was barter, but there's a problem with this chicken. What are some of the problems that we might have with chickens? For example, this piece of paper compared to the size of this chicken, it's much easier to carry in your pocket. I could not, for the life of me, try to stick this into my pocket. I'm not even sure. I could probably stuff one of these into my shirt. So it's portable. The next thing is that this chicken, well, this was a frozen chicken. It's beginning to thaw out. But let's say that I were to go overseas and to carry a whole bunch of chickens with me on the airplane. How well do you think that this chicken would smell at the end of the trip? Not very good. It's not very durable. Here's another question for you. This chicken's worth about $7. Were I to go to the local deli place for breakfast in Queens, a bagel's what, about $3.50? And so I would say, go to the deli counter guy, and I would say, hey, can I pay for this with the chicken? He'd say, sure, it's worth half a chicken. I'd say, well, give me a cleaver so I could cut it in half. The problem is that I don't always walk around with cleavers. So the chicken is not divisible. Here's another problem. What would happen if I were to go over to someone and say, hey, I'd like to trade my chicken for something, and they were to say to me, I'm vegan. So the chicken is not a universally accepted form of payment. And then finally, the other problem with paying for things with chickens is that once everybody realized that chickens were the new way of paying for things, everyone would become chicken farmers, right? Yeah. Suddenly you have all kinds of chickens all over the place, and how do you value them? And so the currency no longer becomes stable because there are so many chickens. So chickens are no longer used as a means of paying for things. Instead, we use pieces of paper. Which leads me then to the question, and by the way, it's gone beyond paper now because what else do we have for payments? We also have, if I can learn how to pick up.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, the thing that I can't pick up, credit cards. And what is something else that we are now using for payment?
Bitcoin.
Cryptocurrency, yeah. Exactly. So currency, money has evolved over time in order to be able to pay for things. And this leads to what is money? Because money has three primary functions in a society. The first one is that it does allow for us to do exchange. We can do trade. Who's the treasurer for our club?
Brian.
Brian, okay, so when Ryan sends out the email to say, hey, it's time to pay your dues, do we pay in chickens? No, we pay in currency. It is a way of exchange. The next thing that money does for us is that it allows us to store value. I can be accumulating money over the course of time, and I can be piling it up into my bank account. And then when the time comes that I need to pay my employees, when I need to pay for my utility bills, the internet, all of that other good stuff, I can use the money that I've been storing up all that time in order to make payment. The third thing about money is that it gives us a common language for expressing value. If I were to tell you that I lived in an apartment that I paid $1,500 for in New York City, well, you'd be like, okay, you're doing all right for yourself, and it's not too bad. And then if I were to say, but my friend over here pays $20,000 a month, what does that do? It gives us a definition for understanding what the value of something is. It describes something beyond what words might not necessarily be able to express. So money does all of these things for us. And it's funny because I was thinking about what is money in the end, because a lot of times we do have these situations where it's people like, I need more money, I need more money, I need more money. But here's the thing that money cannot do. Money cannot buy you happiness, right? Money is there for a purpose. It is a tool. And I've just described these tools, but we also have to remember there's something far valuable beyond that, and it is our emotional well-being in life. With that, I close. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, John.